Hello there, it is I, Verax, here on my IOC channel. I know, it has been a long time, hasn't it? A couple of months. So thanks firstly for keeping subscribed, even if you forgot, it still counts. And if you click this video, thank you very much for the very small margin of interest you must have in what I'm about to say. So, what have I been doing? I've been doing Iosia role-playing game, which is what I said last time I would be doing. That has been ongoing for a number of months now. I have not been resting on my laurels, as you may have expected. It's just been that this project has gone on and on and on, and has got so big that it's really difficult to put constant updates about it, because it's so wide-reaching and stuff that it's just so long that I just had to wait until I was more or less done, or at least at a stage where I could say I have now done this and I can draw a line under it. So that's what I'm doing. I have currently finished 98% of the Iosia role-playing game, core rules and reference, and the Games Master's Tome version 1.4. Eventually all of the books, including the Magic Manual and the Bestiary, will be updated to 1.4, so everything runs concurrently, everything matches up, it's all fine and dandy. I'm not really sure how to present this video or what sort of way I should do it, honestly. Whether I should go through everything I've changed, which will probably take up to an hour, so I don't think I'll do that, but just a hopefully relatively brief rundown of the changes between the older versions and the new ones, what I've done, what I've been doing, and some of the major things, I suppose, and what's going to happen in the next couple of months. So I'm going to sit back with a nice cup of tea here, which I've got here, and basically explain what I've been doing for the last couple of months, because like I say, I have been working on this, but I haven't been updating because it's so hard to update with something as big as updating the entire Iosia role-playing game system. But I'm getting there. The major difference is that the core rules have been stripped back even further, I suppose. The layout of it is a whole lot nicer. It's, for example, now got a proper contents page. There's been a lot of formatting involved, a lot of making sure things were as they should be, and everything sort of matches, if you see what I mean. There's a bit more fluff, especially towards the start. Just briefly go into how the game works and everything. Typical game sessions, campaigns, what you need to know about the rules, if at all. Creating a character and role-playing. None of that was in the old version, or at least I addressed it very, very briefly and then moved on. But I decided, because this was the introduction to the core rules, I should at least address what role-playing is, what the game was about, how it basically worked, before I got into anything else in a bit more detail. Assuming that the reader knew nothing at all about role-playing. So that's what I've done. And to carry on that theme, I've taken a lot out of this version. So, for example, there is no resistance and weaknesses here. There is no attack and parries. Basically, in this version of the game, at its very core base, everything gets one attack and one parry, and you just roll against each other. Not the most engaging of systems, I admit. Though I do make a note in this book saying this is at its very core. If you want a bit more richer, fuller experience, move on to the Games Master's Tome, where it's, we expand on it a lot more. But this is it at its very base. This is the basic mechanics. This is the core rules, so this is what it does. Everything is laid out a little bit better. It just looks nicer, I think. The bold bits are far more relevant to everything. Neo has produced these really nice little, I'm going to call them doodles, so I don't know whether that does them a disservice, just to spruce up the the pages a little bit. So I've added a lot of art to the book, and if I start scrolling, I'm going to start picking on, you know, things. Some of it is much the same, like choosing your own race and everything, but some of it is a lot different as well. We go into skills and everything just looks, I think, nicer. It's much more uniformed and everything. There's more examples of what's going on. I just think that this version of the rules just looks a lot nicer. It's a lot simpler to understand. It's better laid out. The order of it is better. I know that I'm scrolling, you can't read any of it, but it will be released, though not yet, because I want to release everything as a full set, if you like, so you'll have to bear with me. So there has been some quite a lot of changes with the core rules, though nowhere near as much as let's find a nice picture to look at while we just have that side of the page while we go on to the Games Master's Tome, which has been where the bulk of the work has been, to be honest with you, because the old Games Master's Tome, the version 1 I think it was, or 1.1, was a bit of a mess. I didn't really like it. I'm not even going to pull it up. I could get it, you know, on the screen right now and compare and contrast it with the new one, but I'm not particularly going to. Like I said, this is about 98% done. I need to format. I need to add proper page breaks at certain places. I need to add the art, including like a cover and everything. But there's a lot more in here than there was before, and some of the reason for that is because I'm taking out of the core rules and put into the GM Tome, like the combat. So all these multiple attacks and multiple parries that were in the core rules are now in the advanced combat of the GM Tome, just to break down the combat a little bit more. The major thing with the GM Tome that I struggled the most with was how to lay stuff out, because it's all additional rules, but there's a hell of a lot of overlap with rules that are already in the core rules and within different rules within the GM Tome. So separating it all out and organising it in such a way that was intuitive and kind of made sense to read was pretty difficult. But I've kind of got it sorted, I think, by pretty much organising it so, especially, let's see, where is it? Okay, they're arranged in this book so those towards the front of the book are exclusive of the ones towards the back. So the further you go in it, the more you're going to learn, but you're never going to learn backwards, if you say. The downside of this is you can't have a look through the rules and think, oh, I might, you know, want to try that one. Well, you could, I suppose, but it's designed so that you work through it in the way that it's written. So you learn a little bit at a time, and it's designed so that you learn it via this new character sheet. So the first thing that you learn is sight, then social class, then languages, then you go into this, and special abilities is actually last in the list, but that couldn't really be helped because of special abilities is probably the most involved change. The thing that's really just altered the way things work in the game. Or the thing that has altered the most, I suppose. Resistance and weaknesses is in there, and then of course we get attacks and parries and everything. So the major differences that I've kind of added, you know, like languages is in here now, which wasn't, you know, it was in the core rules before. So I've stripped a lot back, and resistance and weaknesses. But what I want to talk about a little bit is social class, because I know I talked about that last time in the last update I did. And here it is. I've done it. So there are 6 social classes and 5 standings. I'm not really sure what the standings are. I think they're just like, you know, how they're regarded against each other. It's not really covered on too much, but I left it in there because it gives an idea. So you got beggar, commoner, tradesman, soldier, knight, and noble. So when you make a character, you are free to choose from whatever ones of these you want that sort of you feel fits your character. Because there's not one that's better than the other. At its very base, what it does is uses this little matrix here to affect roles between certain individuals. So if a knight approached a noble, he would get a +1 bonus on any rolls when speaking to and persuading with, you know, that noble, because nobles and knights get along pretty well. Equally, nobles and nobles get along pretty well, but nobles and beggars, -2 to any rolls between those two, because they don't interact very well. So that's it at its base, but this also serves as an illustration of how, you know, the classes interact and how they view each other. So that's one major change that I've sort of added. It's not really a major change, is it? It's just another little dynamic, and the GM tome is full of little things like the degree of injury that gives you -1 modifiers and -2 modifiers depending on what level of your vitality is. So the more injured you get, the harder it is for you to do actions. So it makes the game harder, essentially. You've got to keep your character healed, which I think is a good thing. I think it's realistic. But again, it's completely optional. You could just like leave this completely blank and not use the rule if you don't want to. But the major thing, if we go all the way down to the bottom, more or less, these special abilities. These have changed the way in which characters gain attacks and parries. Before, I had table upon table upon table of how a character developed their skills. So, for example, with short blades, with swords, and etc., etc., they all gained attacks and parries at certain ranks, and it was fixed. It's not anymore. Now you gain special abilities at ranks 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, and they could include attacks and parries. But equally, they might not. They may include different abilities, special attacks, and other stuff that you can add to your character to make them a bit more unique. So we'll just scroll to let's have a look at it. That's a bad example because I only think of 4 things for that. Some of them aren't as good as others, but this was a lot of work. This was the majority of the work. I tried to do about 3 of these a day, but with there being so many, I mean, that took about 2 weeks, you know, so you can see why this takes so long. I didn't always do 3 a day. They'd come to me during the day and I'd scribble them down and see if they were feasible. Well, like for example, with brawling, which is fighting with your fists in a strength-based way, at rank 2, oh, hang on, that should have one of these. You can have +1 attack. At rank 4, oh wait. At rank 4, you can have +1 parry. But martial arts is the other way around. Martial arts, you can have an extra parry at rank 2, and then an extra attack at rank 4. So that instantly leans towards martial arts being a slightly more defensive, blocking, disabling sort of skill. And indeed some of the abilities within it do lend towards that, although some don't. You've also got like a counter attack skill in with martial arts, which means every time you parry you can make an attack or you do some damage or something. I can't remember how it works. But yeah, so this is how it works. And anything with an asterisk, you can take more than one. So you can, a character with brawling as a skill can take an extra attack at rank 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 if they want. To have quite a lot of attacks, to have like 6 attacks, which is a hell of a lot of attacks. But they miss out on the extra blocks and on the extra damage that hammer fists and stone fists do. So they have many attacks, but they don't do much damage. But if that's what they want, if they want to soak up the opponent's parries, then that's the character they can make. And this sort of goes through every single one of the skills, even not the combat ones. I've renamed Forcing Brawn. I've also got rid of Barter as well. That is no longer a skill. I think it might have been worked into another skill. I think maybe Persuasion might grant a skill that gives you extra better prices in stores. If it doesn't, I might make one, because I might have just thought of that right then, or I might have forgotten it and remembered. But either way, that's how it works, and I can always add to these as we go. And maybe people feed me ideas and stuff and whatever. But yeah, so basically every single one of these skills now has a number of special abilities that you can take as you gain ranks So I'm just finding all these things all the time. I'm really careful about, you know, getting everything right, so there's very few mistakes, little mistakes like that in. So they can develop the character they want. So you can make the hard drinker, you know, if you make enduring, and it also means that well, there weren't even dump stats before, but the equivalent of the, you know, the sort of skills that nobody ever took, like enduring, are now really quite feasible, because enduring can give you resistance. So a +3 resistance to a damage type. So say you took rank 2, 4, and 6. +3 resistance to sharp weapons, you've got a 9 resistance to all sharp weapons in the game, which is quite hefty, really. That's quite a lot of damage that you reduce that by. So essentially, you know, making you practically immune to swords. So that's quite a big thing. So suddenly, enduring is, you know, a feasible thing to put points into to make you, you know, a badass. You can take a load of hits. From a certain weapon, at least. But yeah, every single skill has its own set of abilities, which further add to and expand on that skill. So, really happy with this. Really pleased with the way it works. I've also at the bottom as well done something that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is to add a chapter for the GM to flesh out what an IRPG game should be. And again, these need adding to and whatever, but this is what I've come up with so far about how to award fate points and what sort of treasures to add, because Iosia is not a world full of +4 longswords. So it's basically saying keep the characters poor, keep them almost dying, keep them struggling, so when they find that 20 coins, they're really pleased, because, you know, that's a bunch of healing or whatever. And a little bit of flavour as well in what characters can buy if they want to add more to the game, so you can buy extra stuff if they wish, some of which have actual use and some don't, you know, but they can buy it if they want to add things, and, you know, extra flavor to what inns might be available in certain places, what meals and drinks might be there and what those are, what charms you know, that might be available from peddlers and temples, and, you know, even going into hospital, because I've really expanded on the injuries that characters can suffer as well, because the game would be a lot more harder once you start playing with special abilities, because it assumes then that you're using all of these other, let's go all the way to the top, all these other modifiers for stuff like sight and the effects of darkness, and there's weather there as well, and all that is kind of penalties for you know, your rolls, because if you're fighting in a dark cavern with a load of wind coming through it, that could be like -1, -2, -3 to all of your rolls, and so suddenly you're at a massive disadvantage. So the game should be harder, and so people might be getting hurt more, a bit more character development in that, you know, injuries might build character and stuff, and so we'll see how it goes, because it's all pretty much untested, but I have a very good feeling about the way this is shaping up. So the GM tome, done, more or less. I just have to format it, add some art or whatever, work on the appendices at the bottom, but that's pretty much it. The rules 1.4 done, happy with that as well. I don't want to say they're completely done, but 98% done. So now what I'm doing is I'm working on the Magic Manual. That is the next job, and then the Bestiary. Trying to get them all done by the end of May. Now, I think I can do it. I mean, because the major things were these two. I have done these two now. They're finished, effectively, and these were the really big ones. I mean, the special abilities was a huge undertaking, way more than I thought it might be, you know. But I got there. So, yeah. The next two books shouldn't be that much of an issue. I'm adding about 20 or so spells with the new edition of the Magic Manual. A bit more detail on the rules and everything. Fleshing out some of the descriptions of the spells. But I think I can bash that out pretty quickly, honestly. The only thing I'm kind of dubious about that is the miscast tables. I'm going to redo some of them. So thinking about the effects of those, so much thinking time with these sort of things. What bad effects miscasting a fire magic spell might have, or a healing spell might have. Trying to get that all balanced in with each other. It all takes time. It's all cross references and thinking and making notes and thinking whether that will work with that and does it conflict with anything. It's all saying a lot. But maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it's all a lot of work and thinking, pretty much. And then the bestiary, I don't think is too much of an issue either. A couple more entries to add on that. I've got to redo the profiles to represent the resistances and weaknesses that are within the game, because it will assume you're using those, as indeed will the magic manual, but they'll both say that at the start and explain the rules again. That's just a copy-paste job though, so no worries there. And it should all be done by the end of May. And then at the end of June, I should be playing a game with some friends, as I've said, and we'll test these rules, see how they work. They'll be playing with some pretty high-level, inverted commas, characters, so that I can see quite a few of these special abilities in action, judge how they're working and stuff, though I'll never play them all. And we'll just see how it goes, pretty much. But that is what I've been doing. And that is why I've been updating, is because it's just been so much going on, and I couldn't read updates saying, well, I've done these abilities and that abilities or whatever, So I just thought I'd stay quiet, work on it, get my head down. And for the past couple of weeks, I've been doing like this straight for about an hour a day or so, probably even more. Just steady, carrying on, slow, steady progress. I think it's worked. I think the end product is pretty good, and I'm happy with it, which is the main thing. Hope you guys will be too. So I'll release this, in a month and a half, hopefully. Keep you informed on that. You never know what's going to go up. I mean, I'm going on holiday in a week and a bit, so that might delay things slightly. Although I will be taking my laptop there, so any downtime I can, spend on this. And it could be inspiring. It probably will be inspiring. Being in a different locale in Prague. So I might find other things to spur me on. Okay, so I'm going to go. Thank you for listening to me drivel on. I know it's been a while, but it's kind of hard to nip that, in a relatively short time. But yeah, 20 minutes, so I'm going to get out your hair, and hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks for the full version 1.4 release of IRPG. Okay, so take care, and I'll see you soon. And again, I welcome all of your comments and whatever you have to say. And by the way, I want to say this as well. I know I'm working on a bit, but I'm under no illusions about this. I know that this appeals to a relatively small amount of people, and I'm under no illusions that very few people, if any, are gonna download this and play it. Quite honestly, I do this more for me, for my own personal satisfaction. I'd rather spend my evenings producing something like this, something I can look at and be proud of, and to think, yeah, I did that. It was all my own work, apart from the images that we're looking at, of course. But that's by the by. But essentially, it's all me. Yes, people have helped with playtesting and stuff, but it's my system, basically, and I can say that, and I'm just really pleased with the way it's turned out, and I'd rather have that than to sit vegetating in front of TV, on a night. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this is, and yeah, I think it's well worthwhile. Honestly, I really do. So I shall see you next time for more of this. Take care. Thanks for watching, and toodaloo.